this is why the preceded groups is so unfair, because like I feel so bad for Zimbabwe, because they should have a better shot of making it to the Super 8s than they do.
I was looking back at the tournament. In some ways, they never really just. This is not a semifinal team. They didn't deserve it. You know, if not for
No, no,
Fahim
no, no,
Ashraf's,
no, no, no,
not
no.
for Fahim Ashraf's heroics, they may not even have made the Super Eights. Welcome to Over and Out. With me is Mustafa Siddiqui. Azy Khwaja hopefully is joining us soon. So two matches today, the Super Eights, and both one-sided games, but they were interesting in their own ways. Let's start with the West Indies South Africa game first. West Indies batted first, and at one point they were 83 for 7, and then a remarkable job by Romario Shepherd and Jason Holder to drag this game down to 176. It was interesting. They could have actually put on a little bit more. The last two balls, they only scored, the last two overs, sorry, they only scored 13 runs. I think if they'd gotten a little bit better juice out of those last two overs, could have made it interesting. South Africa, of course, they weren't having any of it. They were like, we're just going to come and bludgeon you. And of course, Aiden Markram, Quinton de Kock, and um,
Rickelton.
Ryan Rickelton basically destroyed them and won by 9 wickets. South Africa are now through to the semifinals, probably will top that group. And India and West Indies will play basically a semifinal. Let's talk about the West Indies, though. I was impressed with how they showed gumption and coming back from 83 for 7, because a lot of teams at that point would have been like, you know what, uh, we don't really need to win today. Let's just pack it up and regroup for the match in Eden Gardens against India, and we'll come back and we'll play that. But they gave it their all, and it's like we mentioned before, they have a lot of firepower up and down that order. They can score a lot of runs very quickly. What did you take away from this match?
So like my entire thing was like your entire like your top six basically did not make any runs for the West Indies, right? And this just shows a how much this is the thing that's like been something that the Pakistan team has been lacking, and that's differentiated the South African team and the West Indian team. Because I do think these are the two best teams in the tournament, even though the game was as one-sided as it was today. It just happens that sometimes if the ball is swinging in such a way, Rabada looked great for the first time for the first tournament, which is so important to South Africa, because if he is fighting with Hansen, with which is Ngidi, with Bosch, with Maharaj, they are so much more dangerous when Rabada is at full strength, right? But it also shows like this was a flat, like the Indian pitches so far, at least for the Super 8s in my opinion, have been extremely flat. Like they are like, as we'll talk about in the India game later as well, like that pitch was also super flat, and it's just like I think like I still think the West Indies will probably go through, because I actually like their batting a bit more than I like India's batting, and I like their bowling units still more than I like India's bowling unit. And I'm Holder and Shepherd have just been so consistent this entire tournament with the bat and with the ball. Uh,
So let's come to India. Basically, a must win for them against Zimbabwe. And they batted first and put up the second highest score ever in a T20 World Cup, 256 for 4. Interestingly, all six of their batters scored at over 150 strike rate. Obviously Abhishek Sharma came back into form, 56, 55 of 30. And then Tilak Verma, man, 44 of 16, but just up and down the order, they just absolutely crushed South Africa. Um, crushed Zimbabwe. I give credit to Zimbabwe. Bennett
yeah,
played a wonderful innings,
Bennett has
97 not out,
yeah
and he's
Bennett's
actually been one of the sleeper best batsmen of this World Cup. By averages, I think he's had 3 not outs. So by averages, he's probably topping that the averages chart. But I think he's second to Saibzada Farhan now in cumulative runs scored. Um, and if you remember, Pakistan was basically all out for 118 against a very similar bowling lineup. Um, First of all, we were waiting. My question for you this: we were waiting this entire tournament for India's batting lineup to click. Have they clicked, or did they just take advantage of some really sloppy Zimbabwe bowling? You know, that second over, um, sorry, that third over, when that young kid came in, I forget his name now. Right after, right after it
Nigarva,
was, yeah, right after it was Rabani's over, he went for 23, and in that he had no ball, he had a bunch of wides. They were shot after that.
I just think Zimbabwe were like a bit outmatched, and if anyone had, this is why the preceded groups is so unfair, because like I feel so bad for Zimbabwe because they should have a better shot of making it to the Super Eights than they do, but they just ended up because of these preceded groups to be in the group with all the table toppers,
Having
right?
said that, they have given up in excess of 500 runs now in
Oh
the
no, no,
last two
no, no,
games.
no. I'm not denying that. I also think, though I do think Zimbabwe have benefited from the pitches having something for the bowlers this tournament, and the last two pitches they have batted on have had nothing. Like they have, like as I've been saying, these Indian pitches for the Super Eights have been so flat, right? Like even in the morning game was in Mumbai, right? Or was it no? Sorry, Ahmedabad. Like they've been incredibly flat. Like how can you like what can you do to chase 250? Like in a World Cup knockout, like basically a knockout game, right? It's like it's
You can't away from home, especially,
it,
and you know that the Eden Gardens is going to be another flat track. It'll be an absolute
yeah,
belter. It'll be interesting to see. So India, of course, switched their lineup a little bit. They brought in
mhm,
Sanju Samson
yeah,
for Rinku Singh, and then Akshar Patel in for Washington Sundar. I still think they're missing a trick with their bowling. I think clearly Shivam Dubey and Varun Chakravarti uh, are not basically bowling well. And I think that is still a soft underbelly. They
yeah,
obviously they have Bumrah. Arshdeep has been decent, but has been hittable.
yeah.
Um, and what's his name? Pandya is Pandya, but
Hmm,
that fifth, sixth auxiliary bowler, they can be gotten at. And I
yeah.
think that's what the West Indies will eye up, the West Indies will know that the one game India lost, they chased. And maybe that's the way to do is bat first,
Yeah.
put up 200 in Eden Gardens and try and go from there.
Yeah, I just think they really missed the trick by not chasing in the group stages. I think they should have chased at least once because they won a couple of the tosses as well. And so I mentioned this on our WhatsApp group that I said that Varun Chakravarti I don't think is going to go bowl well for the rest of the tournament because if you have no, I have noticed a pattern with him throughout the years that if he has one bad game that like derails him for a month or two usually. Like usually if he gives up 40 runs in one game, he's not usually giving up less than 35 the next couple of games. Like and that's what happened today. It was a flat track. I am not denying that. Okay? But at the same time, he's still everyone else 6 and over, 7 and over, 7 and over. Akshar Patel 8.5 8.75 and over. Varun Chakravarti 8.75 and over. It's just I
No,
do
they can be had. Let's come back to their batting.
yeah,
This was an awesome display. And to have six batters at over 150, you
yeah.
look at you compare it to Pakistan, we should compare because different opposition, different pitches, but
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time we've had three or four batters above 150 strike rate.
Mm.
And they were just uh, you know swinging wildly. They were playing some proper cricketing shots and depositing the ball to all points of that stadium. This was intelligent batting at its best.
I mean, Sanju Samson, in my opinion, Sanju Samson's one of the most talented batsmen I've ever seen. He's just never been able to put it all together, and I don't think he'll ever be able to put it all together. But he's just a wonderful batsman to watch because he just times the ball so nicely, right? But like the Indian batsmen have always had good techniques, right? That's never been a problem for them. The problem for them, I say the problem for them for this tournament has been, I believe, a lack of big game experience, which I still think they're going to lack when the World Cup comes because like who's played an important knock for them in this lineup in a crunch game aside from maybe Pandya. And like
Oh,
I
you're
know,
you're right. They are lacking that little bit of big game experience.
yeah, and like I
But
know,
you can
and I
never get big game experience until you play big games, and they've basically been after they lost to South Africa, every game here on out basically has been an eliminator for them.
I completely understand that, but at the same time, I feel like they were like this rushing out of Rohit and Kohli from the team without like properly like bringing in some people to actually replace them, like while they were still in the team has like I know Sky is there, but Sky still to me hasn't proven to me like he's had one good innings this entire tournament.
I think they tweaked the team a little bit. I think you'll see Shubman Gill come back in. I think you'll see
Eventually,
a Jaiswal come back in. The problem is they have a plethora of riches. They
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
so much they have
Oh,
so much talent. It's how do you fit them all in?
we're not
And
even
the
talking.
biggest issue, of course, for them is who replaces Bumrah eventually.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest issue because they have been a good T20. They've been good at good limited over setup for the longest time because Bumrah has single-handedly kept their bowling together. Because he is so valuable. Because he's even more valuable in ODIs because he has 10 overs instead of 4, and you have to always be so very wary of that. And like he can just bowl whatever you want him to in that setup. But it's not just that. Like which other fast bowler? Like I'm like Arshdeep, yes, has been getting wickets. I don't particularly find him as a good bowler. Like I don't find him as of that class of bowler. I do think they might be missing the trick of not maybe playing Siraj or maybe not playing maybe not maybe bringing back a Shami or someone like that. I think that might be the reason that I still think they should play Kuldeep instead of Varun. Like Kuldeep is just a different class of bowler.
That'll probably be the one switch they make for the next game. It'll be interesting to see, but it's set up very well for a quarterfinal. Let's pivot a little bit. So, we didn't record yesterday, but yesterday, of course, New Zealand walloped Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka actually, give them credit, had New Zealand down, but then they staged a wonderful comeback, just made far too many runs. And then Sri Lanka, like they've done in several games, they just basically collapsed.
Yeah.
But it basically means that Pakistan, for all intents and purposes, there's some combinations and some permutations, but they're out of the semifinal. If you look at that, I was looking back at the tournament. Um, in some ways, they never really just. This is not a semifinal team. They didn't deserve it. If not for
No, no,
Fahim
no, no,
Ashraf's,
no, 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 no,
not for
no.
Fahim Ashraf's heroics, they may not even have made the Super Eights. There's just too many holes in that team, too many bang average players, too
Yeah.
many folks who don't have the right roles and the right matchups that Mike Hassan has basically put together for them.
I just think it's like some of our ex cricketers who and like could take it with a grain of salt with the ex cricketers, but they are right in one respect is okay, every 2 years there's a T20 World Cup. You play a different set of guys for about 80 months of the years, and then like 2 months before the World Cup starts, you say, okay, let's bring the same guys who have lost us the T20 World Cup the last 4 times, let's bring them back in.
Do you think it's a fear that the World Cup stage is too big for the other players who they try over the 18 months and they
So
don't
yeah,
have the pressures to play there's no pressure in
yeah,
the bilaterals? Is
yeah,
that why
yeah, but
they resort to four?
yeah, I get that, but at the same time, who's performed at a knockout stage in the World Cup, right? Like it's literally of this team, it is literally only Shadab had that wonderful um spell against Australia where he got a four for, right? But that was like 4 years ago.
And he's
Sha
not a bowler anymore that you can rely on.
he's
Shaheen,
not
obviously, in 2021
Shiny in
was two
2021.
wickets
Yeah, and 2022 as well. Like he was still good, right? Amir, who's
pre-injury, though.
yeah,
Pre-injury.
pre-injury. Fakhr Zaman in the 21 semi-final, but that was also
Yeah.
4 years ago, and that was a different Fakhr Zaman than he is right now. Um, That's basically
Bobber
it.
in the semis against New Zealand in
Yeah, but then
22, I want to say. But
yeah,
you know,
it was
again,
22, but that doesn't really count because like he really like the bowlers set him up for that thing. Like Shaheen bowled great, knocked
yeah.
out New Zealand for about 160 on a pretty flat wicket, and then him and Rizwan chased it very easily. It's like it's nothing. Like none of our batsmen have done anything of note in knockout or pressure games in T20 World Cups. Or of like
They
a
haven't, but how do you build on this? For example, you look at Abhishek Sharma. He had
yeah,
three ducks, and then he basically scored a few.
yeah,
But he knew that he had the confidence of the selectors and of the captains,
yeah,
and he wasn't in any danger of losing his spot.
yeah,
And so, of course, he could come out today and again play the only way he knows how to play. Now, don't get me wrong, he is a proper batter. He knows
yeah,
how to play. He's not a slugger. I know that's been put out there. I think Amir's put that out there on Tavish Hashmi's show, but
yeah.
he is a batter. He's not just a slugger. Let's give him credit. And yet he's played the same style because he has that knowledge that he's going to be backed. Is that what we do with Syme? Is that wrong to do?
I don't.
Or does he at some point need to deliver?
I
Because
think
he
so.
is the closest thing that we have, right? To
No,
somebody
so
at that top order who could basically take the game away.
yeah, I don't think like okay, I'll give you a better example of this, right? Do you think if we gave Mohammad Haris the same amount of backing we had given Saim, like he would have done anything with it? Because he would have done more. Because as much as I love Saim as a cricketer, I still love him as an ODI opener. I am scared. Like I am so scared because of his T20 World Cup performance, they're gonna drop him from his best format, which is ODIs, because like that is how this bloody selection board thinks. Because like they don't look at format based. They just say, "Oh, you're out of form. You're out of form in everything." It's not like you don't understand that the ODI game and the T20 game is extremely different, and the Test game is almost a different sport than ODIs and T20s. And Syme is a bad example because Syme has been given 60 games. Some of our greatest ever T20 cricketers have not gotten 60 the amount of games that Syme has played.
I mean, we play a lot more, but your point is valid. My question for Simon is this. He has to buck the trend, which unfortunately happens with most of our players, whereby they reach a peak, and then they can no longer get past it. Opposition basically figures out what their weaknesses are, go hard at those weaknesses, and they're not able to adjust how well adjust from that from the scouting against them, and nor can they take the next step. You take the example, we mentioned this on a previous podcast,
Yeah.
of Nisanka, right, from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
He was an average player, but he himself worked at his craft and basically became a fantastic player at this point. I think our players, once they make it and they get a few games and they get settled,
They
they
also get
sort
the
of get comfortable. They
they
get
also get
comfortable.
they also get the PSL money as well. Like
Yes,
that.
that's what makes them comfortable, is that, you look at
Yeah.
how much Sam went for. I think he's the highest paid
Yeah,
Pakistani player
he
now in
went
the
for like
PSL,
I
right?
yeah, he went for like 4.5 crore. No, it's not the most expensive. I think that was still someone else, but I think he went for like 7.5 crore
But
or
from a
something.
local Pakistani player, I think he was
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
most.
From a local Pakistani player, I completely agree with that. Right? I think he went for 7.5 crore, which is still
So unless he himself now has the inner drive to become great, he's not going to get the coaching to do it. He's not going to develop in other ways because he's not going to be able to go to the IPL. He's not going to go able to
s-
play in the
s-
SA20. He's not going to be able to play in the ILT20,
yeah,
where other very good leagues where he could potentially get
probably not the
coaching and
100
become
as well.
better.
Probably
Probably
not the
not the
100 as
100 as
well now
well.
as
Right.
yeah.
So
Uh,
how does he become better?
uh so the one person I do think that has improved his game and is the batsman who has actually performed this entire T20 World Cup because he has changed how he used to play to now how he does play, and that is Sabzada Farhan. Because Sabzada Farhan is a very different player than what he came in. Because Sabzada Farhan has been, if you ever note, if you got if like some of the people who don't watch Pakistan in bilateral T20s, Sabzada Farhan has been playing for Pakistan as an opening batsman for Pakistan since the 2018. Like he's been like he used to open with Fakhar Zaman in 2018, and he was a very slow batsman. He was a very timid batsman. He's completely reinvented his game by consistently playing domestic cricket, and then
Correct,
uh,
because
uh,
he never made it. And so he had to basically keep adjusting and working on his craft. Syme has made it, and he made it early. So he doesn't have the same motivation that a Saibzada Farhan had, is my point.
I think the main thing, what I think it is between because of that's different from Indian cricket and Pakistani cricket. There's accountability in Indian cricket. There are if India lose this World Cup, right, changes will be made. Right, everyone knows changes will be made. Okay, maybe Gotham Gambhir might not be sacked, which is the biggest change they should make, but like changes will be made in that team, and so like they know they have to stick to the top of the game. And I also think it's also because they had Kohli as their role model for a decade and a half, right? And Kohli was always this super fit, competitive guy who always tried to get better. Like this man had a horrible time in England Test cricket for so long until that 2018 series where he's just untouchable, the best the one of the best like peaks of a Test batsman I've ever seen, right? But that's he worked on himself, right? And like if your captain, if your star is doing that, your star is putting effort and time, and he's already has talent, but he's also working on it. It forces the team to have that same thought process, right? And for the next generations to who are seeing this to have that thought process.
So
Now,
you bring up a very good point. Let's unpeel that. You brought up 2 points. Let's
yeah,
sort of peel back the layer. Number one, you said India make changes if they're not successful. We make them as well. So we crashed out of the 2024 World Cup in the US and basically immediately sacked everyone. So it's not that we don't do that. The second point is actually more important.
yeah,
India have had back-to-back Singh Dhoni and Virat Kohli, who have basically professionalized what it means to be a top-level cricketer in diet, nutrition, training, just a sheer professionalism. We don't have that. Our next generation of batters basically are coming up, and who do they idolize? They have idolized Babar Azam over the past 5 years, who is the poster child for someone who is so stubborn that he will not adjust his approach, his technique, his skills, or his what's the word I'm looking for? But and work on his craft.
attitude,
And it's the same thing for Shaheen.
yeah.
Post injury, you compare Shaheen post injury to Bumrah post injury. They're both of them got injured. One looked at the lab, looked at his biomechanics, worked on his craft, and tweaked and adjusted and became a better bowler. The other didn't. And you see the difference. And my worry is that because we don't have a Kohli, a Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who basically can be players that the young players can emulate how to be a professional. This gap is going to grow and grow and grow because now every player that comes out of India now is off that mindset.
Yeah.
You look at a young Jaiswal, you look at Sky, you look at Shubman Gill, you go up and down that lineup now. They're
Survershi, who's
all
also
like that.
like the little kid Survershi who's like bit hit
Yes,
where it's like
exactly. You look at how Hardik Pandya came back from Rishabh Pant came back from a horrific car crash, and basically, re-energized his career, came back, worked on his craft, so on and so forth. We don't have, and it's not that players in India aren't well off. They're just as fantastically wealthy. Despite that, they aren't comfortable. They continue to grind and they continue to work on their craft. We don't have that within our ethos.
I think it's also this like I think they have a greater sense of nation and nationhood essentially, where it's not like I think in Pakistani cricket because like so in India there is a proper cricket system. There's a proper clubs and academies, and because there's so much money been poured into cricket over the last 15 years because of the IPL, right? And so there's a bit it's like AAU in basketball, right? Where it's almost like made a streamlined how to become a player, right? And we are that is where we're actually lacking behind. Our grassroots level cricket is not where we should be, considering how much money we do make.
But even if it's not at that level, our players don't even participate in domestic cricket. You look
Yes,
at,
which is the biggest issue.
I was looking at some of the player stats from Indian cricket. Ishan Kishan, Sanju Samson, Shivam Dubey have played a bunch of domestic games. Just
Mm,
last year, we saw Virat Kohli playing in the Ranji Trophy. Our players just don't do that. At the end of the day, you have to deserve victory.
mm.
And you have to deserve victory not by how you perform on that field on that day, but how you perform in the 364 days leading up to that day. And I think that's where we basically fall apart is in those 364 days leading up to that one day.
I also think it's like there is a problem with our domestic system because we have should just explain to you how messed up our domestic system is. We have had a different number of teams play the Qazi Azam Trophy every single year for the last 25 years. Like that is how it has gone from as little as 6 teams to as many as 22. And that it switches every single year depending on what the situation is. And if you don't if you can't like have consistency in your domestic cricket, and like another problem with our domestic cricket is the pitches we play on, because they're extremely batting friendly, right? And they are not, and the we just don't produce the batsmen because of that, because you just give them flat track wickets most of the time, where they don't play good spin bowling, right? So our Asian batsmen cannot play left arm spin, and like they got it's horrendous. We're Asian batsmen. We have like pitches made for spin, and we cannot play it as a nation.
Let's leave it there and we'll come back tomorrow. So tomorrow is
England
England
news.
against New Zealand. And, we're not going to get into the permutations. But basically, you have to hope for Pakistani fans, they have to hope that England win big for Pakistan to then have a chance to do anything against Sri Lanka on Saturday.
Yeah, no, even if you let's just be saying this, if New Zealand wins, we've lost all hope. If England win, you have a bit of hope. If England win big,
Correct.
you can maybe do something.
And
That's the
do
better way.
something. Correct. Correct. Basically.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you.